1,000, 2,000 people born with the same BaZi every single 2 hours. And if you divide by men and women, they're like, by definition, they have the same, or even maybe 3,000 or 4,000. They cannot possibly have the same life, because then it depends on who they met. Where do they go? Some BaZis are gonna excel better if they leave their own hometown. If they meet certain folks, they marry the right people, they go to the right places, etc. I learned a lot, and I think the most important thing I learned is that the very studying of it makes me get too addicted, and that's not a good sign. Like, it's cool, it's a cool knowledge, but I don't think I'm the right person to study it. Today, I want to talk about what I have learned from studying BaZi in the last 3 to 5 weeks. I think I learned a lot about BaZi, and this is a stream of consciousness thoughts about the lessons I've learned from BaZi. So I started learning BaZi because our company is doing well and we have stabilized, we are cash flow profitable, and I'm trying to almost take a peek into the future. And to me, it was a philosophy of life with different rules and systems. And I have a very good BaZi chart, and that also piqued my interest. I went to more than 10 BaZi teachers and have them read my chart, and they all came back excellent. And kind of the singularity was, it explained a lot of parts of my life. The singularity was some 15 years into the future, I will have a very successful business, a career, and they don't know who I am. Like, it's anonymous, and I'm also in the US, and these teachers are all in China. So with 10 data samples, it's like, okay, intrinsically, if this is my BaZi, it's pretty good. But, there is this thing like a hurdle in about 15 years from now, which is the thing that you are really good at, it could be taken away. Best case, it's like some happiness. In the worst case, it could be like life-threatening, at least like according to BaZi. And so that really sent me into it's just like multiple weeks of kind of like a rabbit holding. And everyone's interpretation is slightly different. It goes from very not that severe to very, very severe. And then the way I rationalized it was basically there's like the probability of a life-threatening event happening some 15 years from now. How do I deal with that mindset if I do believe BaZi? So like my first layer was just like, well, the whole metaphysics of BaZi, is that even accurate? To me, it's a big data, linear regression, pattern matching among millions of people. It's pretty accurate, but is it really that accurate? That's number one. And number two is my birthday time even correct? And to that, I asked my parents about when I was born, and I was either born at 11 p.m. or 10:30 p.m. or 11:30 p.m. And apparently, if you're born after 11 p.m., it's a different BaZi, and then before that, it's a different BaZi. And then third, if you're born between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m., then you are, in Chinese, it's called 早晚子时. So the 子时is broken down into early and later. If it's born early, then it's like this, using the same date stamp, the date. And then if it's the next day, then it's using the next day stamp. So between 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. is the next day. And some practitioners use that, some practitioners don't use that. This is all to make the point that my birthday, the hour might be wrong. And that could lead to 3 BaZi charts, meaning I could be born at 10:30, that's one BaZi chart, or I could be born at 11 p.m., that's another BaZi chart. If you differentiate between the early 12 a.m. and the later, like the hour before the 12 a.m. and the hour after the 12 a.m., that's one BaZi chart. And then if you consider anything that's after the 11 p.m. to be the next day, that's the third BaZi chart. So there are like 3 of them. And I got 10 readings for one BaZi chart. I'm not gonna get 10 for the other 2. It just makes no sense. So that's the second layer. And the third layer is depending on what BaZi chart I have, and even if it's the one that has the most severe. So out of the 3 options, one of them, I won't even have this thing happening in, say, 15, 16, 17 years. The other 2, I will have this thing happening in 15 to 17 years. Basically, it's a hurdle. You can call it like this is most difficult year. In Chinese, it's called 岁运并临. So basically, the 大运 and the year are the same column, and that amplify the effect. And that thing usually happens once or twice in your life, and that thing is also the one that's most dangerous for my chart. But the very same thing also allow me to be super successful. Anyway, this is like a very metaphysical point of view at this point. And for the people who are interested, it's like 枭神夺食, basically. It's called 枭神夺食 in in about 15 years. That's coming. And so that even if I have 枭神夺食 in 15 years, based on my chart, it may not be that severe or it could be very severe. And I check like multiple literatures, and mine is gonna be so much better than all the ones that have like these life-threatening events. Anyway, as you can see, I went down the rabbit hole. And so that's the third, which is like many different branches. And then within it, some severe, some not severe. And then one of the branches is this will never happen. Anyway, going to the fourth layer. So the fourth layer is based on my BaZi. It provides quite a bit of a fault tolerance. So even if 枭神夺食 does happen, I have more than strong roots to handle that, which means that it will not become life-threatening. So I asked that question to some of the teachers that I respect. Some of them agree with me. I didn't even say if this is life-threatening or not, but some of them like, don't worry about it. It's not that big. It's you're gonna, just like any other, problem that you're gonna solve. It's also 15 years from now. The other folks were just like, teachers are kind of avoiding the question. It's like, I can only say up to this point. It could be very severe. Don't think about it. But yeah, this is gonna be your life's biggest hurdle. I'm like, dang, that's serious. I can not help but think about the worst case scenario. And then let's go down to the fifth one, which is it's 15 years from now. And that imaginary metaphysical thing, 15 years from now, is causing me to go down the rabbit hole. So whatever is happening in 15 years is affecting my life right now, which is terrible. So then I have to unwind all of that, like level 1 through 5. So it's not a pleasant feeling. It's also one of those things that you cannot even share with any of your friends because they're just like, yeah, this is stupid. Why are you so obsessed with this? And as I look, because it tells me all the things that align with my life and it's telling me that I'm gonna be quote unquote super successful. And I realized this is a very interesting observation. The very fact I'm studying BaZi in a person's life is called 偏印, which is the indirect resource. 偏印 is actually an evil, quote unquote, god. The very fact of studying it is causing a little bit of the symptoms of 枭神夺食, which is this evil god, this indirect resource god, taking happiness away from you. If you have this thing built into BaZi, some people will not be affected. I will be affected. So I'm like, even if I'm explaining it that way, I'm like, yeah, I'm the very fact I'm studying it, the more I learn about it, the more I shouldn't study it because it's affecting my life, my happiness to a many degree. So that's the first lesson I learned. Well, the very first lesson is about the 5 layers of abstraction. Like, is BaZi even accurate? Second is my birthday accurate? And then third is based on the different branches, is that really gonna be that bad? And then I have very strong fault tolerance protection in my BaZi chart to protect against very, very negative downside. And then fifth is like 15 years from now. Should I really be worried about something 15 years from now? Because hypothesis 1 is like, I'm gonna live as if I have only 15 years left to live. Hypothesis number 2 is like, don't worry about it. So lesson number 2, it taught me that I can go down a deep rabbit hole about something like this, which is not good. And now observation number 3 about BaZi in general is there's this like a whole video about the rankings of the best charts and then the worst charts. They call it 格局, which is a pattern, a chart type. So there are about like 20 types, 8 main types, and then there's like a bunch of like different types, indirect types. And I have like some of the best types. I have like 2 combination types. So 枭神夺食 plus like 飞天路马, which is like crazy good, I guess. Whoever has the 食神制杀, so I have the 食神制杀 plus the 飞天路马, which is really good. Both of them are crazy good. The second one especially is crazy good. So, but then whoever has the 食神制杀 is subject to the failure of 枭神夺食. So, which is a very philosophical point. The thing that pattern is at the very top. In some time in your life, you're going to run into the worst type as well. So that's just a matter. It's a kind of like a meta point about the metaphysics. If you are average, that you don't have high volatility, it just reaffirms. If you want to live a very quote unquote successful life, you are almost bound to have a very, very low troughs of sorrow. And do you want it? If you don't want it, then live a normal life. Then your volatility is not going to be high. If you do want it, then just know that that will happen. And so that's something I learned is life is fair, I guess. The fourth lesson I learned is, at the end of the day, BaZi teachers don't know everything. They have interpretations. I can tell you they are not like observing what you say. They don't see your face. It's all voice. And they are just looking at a Da Vinci Code, and they're interpreting their knowledge of the patterns. There are a lot of conflicting interpretations. The BaZi teachers gain the patterns from doing BaZi interpretations for hundreds and tens of thousands of people. Some people actually more than 100,000 people. So they form a certain formulas about them. But there is no true interpretation. At the end, they also say BaZi only determine 50% of your life. And the rest of them depends on your own volition and your own effort and who you run into. For example, it's the same person with the same BaZi, and there are, by definition, 1,000, 2,000 people born with the same BaZi every single 2 hours. And if you divide by men and women, they're by definition, they have the same, or even maybe 3,000 or 4,000. They cannot possibly have the same life because then it depends on who they met. Where do they go? Some BaZis are gonna excel better if they leave their own hometown. If they meet certain folks, they marry the right people, they go to the right places, etc. So that's their way of, differentiating for the differences. And so what I have learned is okay, this is a thing, and what is my response to it? And so different teachers have different interpretations. I learned a lot. And I think the most important thing I learned is that the very studying of it makes me get too addicted. And that's not a good sign. It's cool. It's a cool knowledge, but I don't think I'm the right person to study it. And then because there are so many interpretations, I always cling to the worst case scenario because my job and my work and in many parts of my life, I'm trying to protect the absolute downside. And why did I start studying this? I start studying it because I'm trying to find our company is doing well, but it's not, growing that fast. It's not the next unicorn. And so the question I was trying to ask is, am I meant to create a unicorn? Or am I not meant to create a unicorn? I know that's a very silly question. That actually brings me to the fifth point. The fifth point is the following. I was doing a hypothetical experiment with myself of if I know the ending of my life, is that still worth living? If I know company will do very well and I'll be very successful, which accordingly, yes. And if I take the middle interpretations, basically the two standard deviation of all the interpretations, then the company will be very successful. And it is one of the generational companies there is. So that's the interpretation. So even if I know that, how does it change my day to day? Will I actually work less hard because I know that's going to happen? Or will I work harder? Or will I not even think too much? I don't know. It actually is a very interesting question. I think I will work just the same. I think the pro is that it gives me confidence. The other pro is that, yes, it's almost like when you believe that you're meant to be, and when you believe that that's your destiny, you actually feel more confident. So that's the pro. The con is you might work less hard because you're like, I'm going to get it anyway. Why am I working hard? But for some people, they might say, well, I lose the joy because I know the ending. I know the plot. And so some people in the audience might say, isn't that true that when you know the plot, you ruin the plot? Like if you know the ending, you no longer get the ending. According to BaZi, patterns, that's not going to happen. You can know the ending. In fact, you should know what your life is approximately to. Basically, there is a pattern to it, and you most likely fall under this category, as opposed to specifically if you this is the continuum, you are mostly likely here. Don't try to be here. And if you're here, try to stay here. Maybe you can shift it like this, but you're not going to be here. And if you're here, regardless what you do, you're not going to be here. You're going to be somewhere in here. But the people that are here, most likely they can end up being like this as well, like this and then this. That's my interpretation of things, which call it confirmation bias, but it is what it is. So even if I know the ending, will I still execute? And I think I will still execute. So anyway, that's my stream of consciousness about BaZi, my journey. So I don't think it's that healthy, honestly, for me to study BaZi. And then regardless how good my BaZi sounds and looks, it's a confidence boost. And maybe it's meant to be. By definition, it is a rhyme and not to, if you are going to be ultra successful, you are going to run into some life-changing hurdles and be prepared for it. The last thing I learned is BaZi was super useful for me to learn about what I prioritize. Like that is actually, I forgot about that point. So that is a really good learning. Basically, it's like there's a saying that when you're flipping a coin, you kind of know what you want, like before it lands, right? And I have landed on like out of all three things, the top three will be health. That's number one. And then success of the business. And then finally, marriage. I have decided that's what I wanted. Because when I hear like, oh, you're going to be super successful and your marriage may or may not be that good, I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that. Whereas if they say, oh, look, your life is going to be super successful and you may have a huge health problem 15 years from now, I'm like, I don't want that. I will rather want my company to be less successful so I can live longer. And so it's a very good determination of what you want in life. And so that's why I went down this rabbit hole. It's like, is it that serious or is it not that serious? Because I'm super healthy now. How is it that you can determine like 15 years from now, I'm going to have this, I may have some injury or whatever, right? Knock on wood, knock on wood, knock on wood. But it's very useful for me to prioritize what I want out of life. Thanks for listening to my rant. It's very good for me to get this out. Thanks.